This is the cream of the crop.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this Resident Evil on Netflix series review. Episode 1 went up yesterday, so of course, in sequential order, we go to Episode 2, also named The Devil You Know. There's the title card. Let's jump right back into this. The very first thing they bring us back to is the end of Episode 1. We open on Jade, leaping from the compound into the mass of Zeros. They smell her fresh blood. They turn to begin their hunt, and Jade must take off, finding refuge behind construction equipment. Baxter then gives the order to keep her alive, and they begin to lay waste to every single Zero in their sight. Suddenly, an armored vehicle will burst through the gate. Jade makes a run for it, leaps on top of that vehicle, and clutches onto the roof before the vehicle speeds away. Now we're going to cut back into the teen versions of themselves where Billy was laying motionless. Last we saw her, bitten by that Cerberus, and then she gets up, she makes a little joke to her. Jade's sitting over her. She seemingly gasps awake from the dead and cracks a joke. Still in immense pain and bleeding, Jade helps her to her feet, and they make for the entrance. Umbrella security swiftly on their way to the compound when Albert suddenly arrives out of nowhere, begins to inspect Billy's wound, and then wraps the wound in a piece of cloth. He gives them an escape route through the backside of the facility and says no hospitals, just go home. He then inserts a USB, like a thumb drive, into one of the nearby security terminals, wipes the cameras, the computers, and everything from the lab that may incriminate his daughters. Shortly after, he covers himself in the Cerberus blood. It was one of the most graphic yet really touching scenes because he truly shows the length at which he's going to go to protect his daughters. Back to the present day, Jade is still riding on the Jeep. They encroach upon a tunnel with spikes, screeching to a halt just before she is then shredded by those same spikes. The driver gets out, puts her at gunpoint, and tries to shoo her away. Like, nope, get out of here. She attempts to bargain with the man, and before they can even come to an agreement, they're suddenly attacked by another pack of Zeros. The man desperately tries to fend them off, but is served basically for a midnight snack, and Jade gets back in the Jeep and she speeds off. There's the tunnel, there's the spikes, there's the Zeros encroaching upon her. Now Umbrella security arrives and holds Wesker at gunpoint. He tells them that there has been an incident and we're going to cut to the girls arriving home, really. They're going to get back into their house safely. And they discuss how the dog looked dead, but somehow was still alive enough to attack her. They share a loving moment before a tinge of pain and tinnitus really interrupts this exchange. The lab is cleared of soldiers as Evelyn Marcus, the daughter of James Marcus, enters to question Albert. He gives her a tall tale of how they must have been hacked. It wasn't ransomware. It was just a straight-up scorch-the-earth situation. And during the hack, it unlocked the cage, and he himself was attacked. The big reveal: Evelyn Marcus is actually here to showcase the Joy drug, the one where we saw Joy for Kids, the teddy bear from Episode 1. It's a new drug to be released by Umbrella, and Albert says he is tired, he wants to talk tomorrow, and she obliges him. She lets him go home. Evelyn is leaving and is suddenly confronted, though, by another woman named Diana, who we find out to be her wife. She's worried to death. Everyone is then introduced to each other. Diana, this is Albert. Albert, this is my wife, Diana. After a little fight, pretty much all going to dispense back to their houses, and Albert's going to return home to treat his daughter's wound next. And I think that's one of the more touching parts of this episode and this series is seeing how much Albert does love his daughters. And he's going to discuss tonight's events. He goes to blame Jade. Billy takes the fall because it was Billy's idea to get these rabbits out in the first place. Albert does his best to explain to them that right now he can still fix this, still try to mend things, but it's got to stay a secret between the three of them. For if this were to get out, they'd be torn apart, at the seams, and maybe to never see one another ever again, or even worse, just be killed. We flash forward to the present day, and Jade has driven to Dover, England, which seems to be completely under Umbrella's watchful eye now. You can see the drones flying above them, and she goes on the hunt for a man named Barry. I don't know if this is the reference or an Easter egg to Barry Burton. In just a few moments, you'll find out why. She knocks on a bunch of doors, eventually finding a woman named Melinda, not before being spotted by that drone that was flying above her earlier. She's informed that Barry isn't home, and Jade is more than happy to wait, but Melinda isn't really that happy to have her sitting about and basically being an intruder to their house. They discuss that the Umbrella takeover, how there hasn't been any infection, everything's been fine. And Jade makes a comment about, they're always being watched, but Melinda's pleased with all the extra patrols, all the extra guards. No infection since they arrived. Jade makes a phone call on the satellite phone that Melinda has to her partner that we saw in episode 1, asks about the daughter, doesn't get a chance to see her, but then is told by her partner to go to Calais in France. And the reason she wants to go, or the reason he wants her to go there, is it is Brotherhood territory, and that's the only word they really use to describe them other than they hate Umbrella. The Brotherhood hates Umbrella, so it's got to be at least a little safer for her there. If she's being hunted by Umbrella, at least she might have the backup of the Brotherhood. She wants to see her daughter. Daughter isn't home right now at the time of the call, and they share kind of like a screen kiss, like a mwah, and then one of those before they get off the phone. Jade is then creeped out by just the sheer number of cats she's starting to count inside of this apartment, and Melinda begins to threaten her and says she's going to call the authorities when there's a bump in the bathroom. And Jade, she goes to inspect it, and she finds Barry, the husband, zombified inside, which is why I'm praying this is not an Easter egg or an allusion to this being this universe's Barry Burton. Barry Burton, one of the best characters in Resident Evil history, but they named him Barry nonetheless. He's chained himself up into the bathroom, and Jade basically says, look, you tell me how to get to where I'm going, and I'll leave you alone. I won't cause any more trouble. And Melinda says it's in Barry's book. It's in one of his pockets. Jade has to go in then and get the book out of one of Barry's pockets. So she armors up and goes in to retrieve this little black book from one of Barry's pockets. She then breaks somehow that handcuff. The rotting flesh breaks through the handcuff, and Barry goes careening after her and then right past her to Melinda. And then all of a sudden, Jade, from behind, saving Melinda's life, stabs Barry through the back of the skull and out the front of the eyeball. Melinda's really upset. Jade broke her promise not to hurt Barry, and Jade got her book, so she's kind of done with the situation anyway, curses her out a little bit, and then leaves. And this is where things kind of take a turn. We go back to the past where Albert is giving Billy a quick look over to see how she's responding to the bites, checks the wound to even see that it is healing. Not getting worse, which is surprising. Even to him, Albert takes another blood sample, though, of Billy. And young Jade begins looking for more information regarding this incident from Tijuana she found on that computer in the lab. Billy is going to stay home from school. Jade tries to stay with her, but Albert informs her she has to go because it would be suspect if both of them were to stay home. Albert takes the sample of Billy's blood and sees something puzzling. We cut back to Jade going to check on Billy real quick, who is sleeping decently sound, really, before scaring the living Jesus out of her sister because it's like she just grabs her out of nowhere. Albert has injected, though, a mouse with Billy's blood, who he would believe would be infected with the T-virus. But he needs another injection himself, so he has to use Jade's blood. Jade's blood gets injected into his neck. And we're going to cut to the school. We just basically see him inject his neck, inject the mouse, and then we cut over to that school where Jade is going to get some help from somebody. And we are reintroduced to Simon from the first episode, one of the boys playing basketball. He's apparently a teenage hacker who can get around Umbrella's firewall within the city, and a bit of teenage flirting ensues before Jade asks him for help. They bargain for a moment. Simon asks for her necklace in exchange for his hacking skills, and Simon helps her access a website that is about the truth of Tijuana and Umbrella. Jade emails the author of the site with her email address, like her personal email address, and then just kind of throws the laptop back at Simon and says, it's all just a joke, right? You said it's a joke, whatever. Flash forward back into the present day, and our good friend Baxter has arrived. Baxter is surrounded by Melinda's cats in the apartment, takes a bite of an oatmeal raisin cookie that she has given him. It's extra crispy, and there's a big chunk of cat hair in it. He then questions her about her visitor earlier, meaning Jade, and she admits that Jade was there looking for her husband, then is asked why she wants her husband. We cut to Jade entering a bar by the English Channel where a man named Charon is taking Charon, really, like the ferryman, the boatman. Taking valuables of any sort in exchange for passage across the channel. Jade is ready to submit her wedding band to secure passage. She is told it's not enough, and since she is a friend, so to say, of Barry's, it would actually cost her double because Barry still owes her for the last one. Well, Jade ain't no fool. Jade takes a bottle of liquor from behind the bar while he's not looking and then drops it in front of one of the other patrons while slightly sliding off that man's key. And it's really hard to see, but it's actually in this picture right here. It's a little poker chip sized thing. And as she drops the bottle with one hand, she covers the key with the other, picking it up kind of in one swift motion. I wanted to blow that image up so you could kind of get an idea of what it is or how it works. We're going to cut back to the present, though, where Albert is having a meeting with Emmeline. They have a conversation about Joy, wanting it to be new, improved, and on the shelf in 2 months. She's told it's impossible by Albert and says that it would cost lives if they did do that because it would create mistakes in order to rush the medicine out. She must know about his blood injections because she is the only reason that he's on the inside to begin with. We cut to Billy in her house in the bathroom who looks at her wound in the mirror, expecting to see how it's healing, but still, kind of looks a little bit freaked out by it. She's very pale. She's very flushed. She's definitely being affected by it. It looks like it's getting better though. The wound itself is healing. She returns and her little baby dog, the little therapy animal she has, growls at her, barks at her, nothing like the relationship we saw in the first episode. And Billy is confused. We cut to Jade, who is contacted by the man who made the website about truth behind Umbrella, Angel Rubio. And that is a little picture of their video conference they have, a little video chat they have. She's told about the incident. A man killed 9 people in the lab after being infected with whatever it is was in the lab. Angel goes to his wife, who tries to then get to the truth behind this incident, but the man is already dead. The paper shoots down the story. Umbrella pays off the wife, and everybody kind of disappears, and he gets fired. A teacher, though, in the background catches Jade not in class, yells, "Jade Wesker," and the man hears Wesker and just, wide-eyed, bright as diamonds is Wesker, says it right before she's able to hang up on her, and it's a bit of a little red flag for him, it seems like. We cut back to Billy walking her dog. The dog gets off the leash and runs from her. Billy catches up to the dog, who is still growling, biting, snarling at Billy. The man who ended up picking up the dog says the dog acts like she isn't the owner and goes to leave with the dog. Well, Billy gives him a straight right and knocks him flat out, and then grabs her dog and runs back. We cut back to present day, though, and there is a scene where Jade is walking along these docks with her stolen ticket, looking to gain passage on this ferry to France. A man is then shot in the head, and Jade realizes, a little, too late, that Umbrella has arrived and begins mowing down everyone on the docks in pursuit of Jade Wesker. But back in the past, something very suspicious starts happening. Billy is in the bathroom, begins to spit up blood from her mouth, looking very feral almost. And we cut to the mouse in Albert's lab. And it is just bashing itself against the walls of this case that it's in. Ends up cracking the front glass, losing its mind. And with one last violent jump against the glass, you hear it shatter as we cut to black. And that is the end of episode 2. If you like this series, leave a comment, like it, maybe subscribe. I appreciate you for being here for episode 2. We'll be back tomorrow with episode 3.